Hey everyone, it's SJ. Happy Baby Name Monday and Happy New Year. I hope you're having a brilliant January so far. Today's list is all boy names. I know it's super tough to find a boy name sometimes. We find it a bit easier with girl names, and I think that's because we go a bit wilder with girl names. We seem to think that there's a wider spectrum, whereas with boy names, a lot of times it's harder to decide on something because you're looking for something unique and rare, but not too wild and out there. Dads often are quite traditional when it comes to the boy names, I find. So I really hope this is an amazing list. I absolutely personally love every single name on this list, and this would be the kind of name list that I would be having if I was to have another baby. I'm not, I've already got 3. I just don't know what to call it, because what I did was looked at the baby name lists from the early 1900s through to like 1960. And some of the names that were on there, you know, basically like Wilfred's really popular now, Arthur, Stanley, they've all kind of come back through the ranks. But there are some hidden gems that I have unearthed for you, done all the hard work. So sit back, relax, especially if you're pregnant, get yourself a decaf something, and let me know what you think of these names in the comments below, and add any that you also think would suit this list. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for new baby name lists every single Monday here on my channel, and I try to never repeat names. I'm quite good at that, I think. I'm quite disciplined. So the first name on this list, to give you a flavour of this list as well, is the name Hector. So it's a name we've all heard, but it hasn't got back into the mainstream yet, but it's starting to get used. Actually, Baby Center in the US voted this as their top prediction for an up-and-coming baby name in 2016, which is interesting. So I had to look at where it ranked, obviously, as I always do. It's at number 282 in the UK name charts, and it's sort of pretty flat around that, and that's not very high. It doesn't mean you're going to be hearing it very often out in the playgrounds, down at the schoolyard. It's very American. It's still quite rare, but it's a brilliant name, isn't it? Hector. It just sounds very, very traditional. It actually was derived from a Greek word meaning to have or to hold. So that just makes me really love it. And with Hugo being such a popular choice now, Hector's a little bit more out there, a little bit more rare and a bit more unusual. I read lots of forums whenever I do a baby name list, and this had like really great comments from everybody. It had like almost universally people saying, I absolutely love that name and I've never thought of it. From a few from like Mum's Net and places like that where I read. The only thing that came up is that Hector apparently is also slang for a bully. I've never heard that. I don't know if that is a regional thing or I've just never heard it myself. But yes, that's the only thing that could put some people off the name. But I love it, and I would love to know what you think of it, and I would love you to add it to your list. Next up is the name Percival. So Percival used to be a very common name, and now it's totally unranked. It's only at number 1339. So you're not going to bump into any more Percivals. But I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. It may be familiar to you because of Sir Percival, who was a Knight of the Round Table, and that whole Arthur Round Table thing is coming bang back into vogue, isn't it? Kind of on the back of Game of Thrones. Then we've got Merlin, the TV show. There's a new big movie out with kids about King Arthur. So yeah, it's a really trendy one, and with Arthur being such a popular name. Percival, go for it. Obviously he could have the nickname Percy, which is more well known, but he could also have the nickname Val, or he could also have the nickname Perry, if you like that. And Perry means pear tree, so it's a little nature meaning. I just think it's absolutely great. It was one of Albus Dumbledore's middle names for all you Harry Potter fans. Pretty much every name list has some sort of J.K. Rowling amazingness in it. So yeah, I think it's a really, really lovely one. For me, it just sounds like it's got that very modern surname as first name sounding, a bit like Franklin and those types of names have become to sound very normal. I think that Percival could really fill in one of those types of names, and I don't think you would blink about it. You wouldn't think, oh, that's a weird name, but you would also be like, oh, I really love it. And it's got that high Scrabble letter with a V, which we really like. So yes, lots of ticks from me. I hope it's lots of ticks from you too. Next up is the name Edwin. What do you think of Edwin? I think it is lovely. I think it's definitely similar to like the Wilfreds and those ones that are coming up, isn't it, Edwin? And I think I know a little Edwin as well, actually. I think Finn had an Edwin in one of his classes. It's only at number 483. And with nicknames like Teddy and Ned and all of those becoming so popular, Edwin is a great, unusual, much more rare and interesting choice. Edwin is an English word meaning rich or prosperous friend. So that's always good. And also in Scandinavian, it's the English form for Odin. So it's got that kind of cool thing going for it as well. Those god names are really, really popular, aren't they? Funnily enough, Edwin has got a couple of space links as well. Can't get my words out today. So space themed names are really popular, and Edwin was Buzz Aldrin's first name. He was actually Edwin Aldrin, which is cool to know. And also there was an Edwin Hubble, who was an American astronomer, and that was where the Hubble, was it called Hubble telescope, was named after him. So if you've got like space themes, or you were looking for a space type of name that's a bit more unusual, but you could still do a space themed kind of nursery and stuff, I think Edwin's a really lovely one. A more popularly used one at number 232 at the moment is the name Francis for a boy. This is really on trend because it is a gender neutral name, and we're really liking those at the moment, and I just think it is really lovely. Again, it's got loads of love online, lots of people bringing up Fran from Travis as a kind of namesake that made this name to them seem very cool, very edgy, very indie, and kind of very wearable for a little boy today. I really like the name Francis. I think that it is kind of going to come up through the ranks. It's kind of been very out there for a long time, but it is gaining a little bit in popularity. So the original name was Franciscus with a C, and that was to do with the tribe of the Franks, which meant free man. So I talked a lot about that in another video, which I will link below, with a friend of mine who I recommended the name Frank to. And a franc is obviously a French coin originally, and it means free. So I think Freedom and Francis are lovely, lovely names, and I think that it's just a very modern name for a little boy today. What do you reckon? Could you get past Francis being very well known as a girl's name more recently? What do you think? So the next name, actually, it's really funny because I'm sat in my dining room because Finn's poorly and didn't want me to go upstairs. And I was sat next to my plant, and I asked everyone to guess his name, because I've named it, and it's the name Cecil. I didn't even realise I was sat next to you, Cecil. And Cecil was on my name list this time. I just really like the name Cecil. Maybe it's more of a pet and a plant name, but I would definitely go for it for a little boy. I think it is the cutest. Can you imagine a little baby Cecil? I would just think that was absolutely adorable. And it's only at number 3,449, so it's not getting used. So if you're looking for something really rare, but it's so traditional, like how many granddads did we know called Cecil? So I think it would just be one of those that people are like, oh my goodness, I'd never thought to use it, but how adorable. So it was once a Roman clan name and was a very strong name, you know, it was a very robust name, but now it sounds quite soft and gentle, I think, but it wasn't originally. Most famous Cecils are in sports, or there's a lot of jazz musicians called Cecil, but the meaning isn't very nice. It means blind, but I think like Cecily is really getting popular for girls, so why not Cecil for boys? Next up, I don't know what you guys are going to think of this name. There were only 4 babies named Clive last year, and I love the name Clive. It was so popular. It was on all of those early name lists, the historical ones I looked at. I actually went to school with a Clive, and he was one of the most popular boys in my school. All the girls really fancied him, so maybe for me it kind of like has like quite handsome associations. And then you think of Clive Owen, the actor, suddenly the name takes on a kind of like leading Hollywood star. Not that Clive in my class was like that, but he was always the lead in the assemblies, which is why the girls probably liked him. And it's a nature name. It means somebody who lived near a cliff or a riverbank. So if you do, it's a lovely way of bringing that in. I think there's names like Cullen being really popular, like Caleb. There's no reason for Clive not to come back up again, but it was one of the names that was nearly extinct a few years ago. So you've really got to start using it again if you like. C.S. Lewis's first name was also Clive as well. So it's got a lovely literary roots, and I would love a little C.S. Lewis books in his room would be a really nice nod to that. Or there was a very well-known explorer Clive of India, if you have Indian heritage as well. So yeah, what do you reckon? Am I selling Clive to you, or are you like Eshtay gone bonkers? I do. I don't know about this name. It's not so unusual actually, but it's a name that's just been really on my radar lately, and that is the name Adrian. And I don't hear it used very often, and it was on a lot of these more historic name lists. It's at number 224, so it's not getting used that much, but I thought you guys might really like it as a really good one that meets this brief of being kind of rare. And the number one thing that came up when I looked at user comments for the name Adrian was how handsome it was, and how people just thought it's a really handsome boy name. But I think it sounds really nice, Adrian, and you don't hear it very often, but you hear names like Elliot, Rupert. It kind of feels like in those kind of realms to me, but a lot more rare and unusual. It's much more popular around the world, so if you're watching this in the US, you might be like, Adrian's really well used, but it's not very commonly used here in the UK. You don't hear many Adrians around at all here. I don't. Do you guys hear any Adrians? It's also very popular in Sweden, it's very popular in Spain. So if you're looking for a really strong European name and a name that can travel, Adrian is a great choice for you. And with Adeline being so popular for girls, a bit like Cecily for boys, when we talked about Cecil, I think Adeline and Adrian means Adrian's going to gain in popularity potentially over the next few years, and those sounds we're really liking. So yeah, I popped it on my list because it's one that's been boiling in the back of my mind. And my very last one for today is the name Winston. So again, I grew up with a Winston. He was literally one of the most popular boys again. So I've got like really funny associations with that as well. We all really fancied Winston. It's only number 684 and it was a very rare name back then where we lived. But he never got teased for his name or anything, and I think that it's really going to be a strong one coming up soon because the movie Churchill is out, Winston Churchill, you know, all that heritage that we have, and he's becoming a very kind of important figure again. We're talking about him a lot. Billy Piper chose the name Winston for her little boy. She's from Swindon, so am I, so is my friend Winston. I wonder if she also fancied Winston, but anyway, she has chosen it. But her sort of choosing it, celebrity, she's not a big celebrity, I know, but it hasn't boomed, has it, Winston? And with Wilbur, Wilfred, I think Winston is absolutely lovely. Some people on forums said they thought Winston was really a dog's name, so I don't know where that's come from. Do you have a dog association with Winston? Is that sort of a cultural reference that I don't know about? But also it was John Lennon's middle name. So if you really want a quirky name and you really like Winston but you're not sure you're going to get it past your husband, then yeah, go with that. So that is my kind of pick of rare, historic, traditional boy names, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to struggle with naming this, aren't I? I hope you really like the names on this list. I hope it's given you some good boy inspiration, and do continue this list in the comments below because you guys are so good at coming up with baby names. Do still leave me your requests. I basically am getting so many requests now for baby name help here and on Instagram. I try to do 2 to 3 a day, but each one takes me like 20 minutes. And as I have 3 kids myself, it's not always going to get around to all of them, but keep leaving them and I'm going through the list. Lots of love, guys.